What's good, everybody? Welcome to BOOMPA World, Jet Set Radio. Previously left to die on the Dreamcast, Sega and Smilebit's cel-shaded bangers kind of spread its wings and been re-released in all sorts of places. From Steam to the PS Vita to the 360 marketplace in 2012 where a teenage Boompa downloaded the demo. It's gotten some much needed attention and love. There's been spiritual successors left and right. There's a one dropping this summer that looks on point. It's like cyberpunk something. But so far, nobody else has really quite captured the control, the art direction, the soundtrack, the vibe. Well, besides the sequel, that was an Xbox exclusive in 2002, Jet Set Radio Future, altering the game to be a more open world, open zone experience with a more futuristic art style. It sounds like it's set up to be a total forgotten classic. I mean, it probably should have gotten that up-res and re-release alongside its older brother, but it got stuck with subpar 360 backwards compatibility, and has been chilling here ever since. Most people that own this game probably have it on this demo disc with cool early 2000s menu and even some trailers like this cursed Xbox Live instructional video.
Now my gamer tag, my online ID is
Dark Master.
Yeah!
Also Sega GT 2000, which is a pretty ass racing game. But they know why we are here, because the Jet Set Radio Future disc by itself is for some reason like 3 times the price. And after the graffiti disclaimer, cool ass main menu, I think we should lace up our skates and shake the shit out of these spray paint cans and see if this game is worth our time in 2023. We're dropped to Tokyo, Japan in 2024. This is the last year it'll be Jet Set Radio Future. The garage of the GGs, the graffiti gang that we evidently are here to join. Korn here instructs us to go find gum, and luckily the garage is the perfect skate park playground to get a feel for the controls. Sonic mixed with Tony Hawk. My brain's memory of this game reawoke when I saw Hi-Fi Rush. Just out of basic, hey, that game is cel-shaded too. But Gum teaches us the ropes and we are flying around doing flipsies and tricksies, collecting spray cans in no time. You just gotta ride past and hold the triggers to paint, which is different from the original, which required like a directional input. You can also go extremely goofy movie mode and speed boost in this game, which is cool. Momentum is nice, but right off the bat, you can feel jumps being auto-aimed towards things sometimes, but it might be a problem in some trickier spots later in the game, which it is. Next, we are introduced to Roboy, who is a save point and information bay with a cool early 2000s spunky attitude, just like everything else in this motherfucking game. We listen to the Jet Set Radio because we are mysterious and underground like that, and it's hosted by DJ Professor K. He puts the soundtrack experience to a new level.
I'm gonna bust into your head through your cute little ears and blow your minds with my sexy voice and out-of-sight sounds.
But he also explains the storyline, how this dude Rikaku is oppressing the city, its industries, and most detrimental, he's oppressing cool, edgy kids expressing themselves. Dude even bought a police department. Corporate corruption and greed, spitting on culture and choking it for profit. Sounds like a good enough reason to rebel. The first real level is Dogan Zaka Hill, and I can't help but get Toad Subway City Escape vibes. The chaotic feeling of speeding through town, jumping through rooftops, spraying all the predetermined spots they have laid out for you on this little map. Speed was just great, and the control was pretty responsive. Yet your guy felt like he was kinda on low gravity mode. The atmosphere was honestly a lot to take in, from the gameplay and soundtrack meshing. It felt like I was playing an art piece right off the bat, but this bustling city and flying through the mall, knocking down every possible thing was just a blast. It took me back to when I was a kid, just playing free ride on games like the Open Area and Kirby Air Ride or ATV Off-Road Fury. I was just mindlessly riding around doing laps. Zooming. After spraying the area, we challenged Beat, the guy on the cover, to a race around town. After we proved our worthiness by copying some of his moves. We dusted him and he actually joined the group. I'm glad because I wanted to play as him. And for the last phase of the level, we had to take down a bunch of the Rokaku police, painting their gray, lifeless strip. The combat and the objectives weren't anything really special, but the feeling of the city exploration and like a fun, interactable environment, it carried for real. Next, we went over to Shibuya Terminal.
City's biggest non-stop dance party.
This level felt less like a lap race and more open and explorative. It was beautiful. The way this game nails the hustle and speed of a little busy town, especially with the high tempo sample beats in the background. What a time to ride around taking in the scenery. I appreciated how there wasn't pointless enemies everywhere and they were able to emphasize the strengths of this game. This time a rival gang, Poison Jam, was spraying everywhere and we basically went and sprayed over every single one. Out-tricked this lame grunting trio and I guess drove them out to the next level. Something about this level, grinding next to the city street, just made me feel like I was in an anime opening. Next we unlocked this cool ass dude combo with a boombox on his shoulders while he's skating. That's just too cute. This grind he did that we had to copy to gain his respect took me way too long though, so I realized I needed to get good and also start collecting more of these alien heads scattered around. They're called graffiti souls because they are actually kinda necessary. This George Washington ass police chief Hayashi is on our ass with the musket. Get your ass out of here. Professor K gives us more Jet Set lore on the radio after we finish up, showing us where Poison Jam went next and another gang that might want to help or have information. The Queens of 99th Street. Ooh, I can't wait to play that level, it looks sweet. But first we went to Chuo Street. It was like a community square with cool back alleys and fake businesses. In this level specifically, they started using more verticality to separate planes of the level, and you had to do certain tricks and platforming to get up there from rail to billboard and roof to grind on power lines and stuff like that. It was basically like doing parkour, like Mirror's Edge on skates sometimes. But this concept I really first noticed in this level, and it is one they use throughout the game, that gives each level life and really its own progression. The police dropped tanks this time. Seems like overkill for some fucking skaters, but you know, we just had to paint the fuck out of them, followed by knocking Hayashi off his high-rise view. I was glad the missions showed so much variety. It's been so memorable, and I already can say this series is worth your time, even if it's just a little dabble. The sense of speed makes sense coming from Sega, and now Sonic and Frontiers just boosts how Beat does in this game. And it's kind of a stretch. Fully flush out Poison Jam, assert our dominance in the graffiti gang world. We went to Rikaku Dai Heights, where people live on top of each other in a more run-down area near a power plant. And with all the browns and less bright sunlight, it has a different tone from the other big city levels that I could appreciate. This time we were on the power lines and spraying at the same time, and they were asking us to grind and hit jumps off of billboards to get to the higher areas. I got stuck on this level, not sure at first how to ascend. You also sometimes had to do certain objectives, like I had to push Poison Jam to open up a part of a warehouse that gave you another area to explore. But here I also just love the birds flying away and just that attention to detail. Everything just came out with thought but be careful not to fall off with this higher level getting the alien head, otherwise Professor K laughs at you and you plunge into the water and you show up back on the first level all the way down. And you gotta climb all the way back up, which kind of made me salty, but they do this a lot in this game, and the views and the panoramic was worth it. But other than that, so far it's just been spraying and beating cops' ass. Not a bad time. We headed next to 99th Street to meet the Queens and take in the jaw-dropping visuals. 99th Street had a giant tower in the middle with a light-up dragon you rode up, and the abundance of neon lights, blacks, and purples really brought a whole new feeling. It reminded me of this one SSX track, speeding through the tunnels of well-lit businesses, and speaking of lights, there was some Rikaku lights we had to grind up and destroy. I wish I could stop and go shopping or take pictures in 99th Street. Even the power lines are neon purple with blue accents. Giant kitties and mushrooms too. They were fried when they made this one. Each level brought something different to the table. I always just felt free to explore and conquer these douchebags in this unspray painted wall every time. It was sweet. Each area has so much thought and art direction that makes everything just pleasing to look at and run through. If you didn't know where to go, every objective was a pause away to be displayed on the map. From graffiti spots to collectibles to police, a rival objective, it was all really straightforward and will lay your options out in front of you, even though it's an open world game. We ran into the Queens of 99th Street and had to cheese this flag competition after losing a few times. I just skipped the second flag so they would get it and then I would already be near the third one and remember the locations of the other ones. Because they were just faster than my slow ass. But they informed us Poison Jam's hideout was in the sewage facility under Rikaku Dai Heights. As we went down, I ran into Rith, who wanted to join the movement. Welcome, she's a really cute character. The designs are so fire and it's cool to see how they changed from the first game. So we broke into their home turf and immediately got stuck into this half-pipe trap that this alien-looking dude set up. While shaming us for being his 30th victim, he also gives us a tutorial on hand plants and a way to break out of the trap. I guess it was like he felt kind of guilty. So it worked out, and he even joins the GGs as another playable character. Yeah, let's go. All the characters handle a little differently and have different quirks to them, like full health, or can carry a few more spray cans, or just move faster. Like for me, Combo was so cool looking but just too slow. We ran around turning on a bunch of switches with more tight corridors and pathways, and It was asking more platforming wise than any other level so far, and honestly probably the lamest aesthetic wise, but I understand it's a sewer. I feel like sewer levels always kind of bore me, but I still got to fly around and feel the underground booty water air flow through my hair. It was very half-pipe based, like this whole level. I feel like this is when the slight issue with the camera grew as the game went on, but this level was pretty apparent that it was kind of an issue. So we finished the half-pipe labyrinth, and I feel like here was the game's first miss. I just wanted to get out of this area, but hey, at least it introduced this Sonic Adventure-ass loop-de-loop. Got this cool Sewage Gator enemy, look at that fucker. This level kind of had a learning curve when compared to the rest of the game. I feel like it showed me how to use the map much better, having to follow more winding, samey looking paths. It really made me improve my traversal and capacity for the game in general. But it was a tough lesson. I could see a lot of people putting the game down here. It was like learning to ride a bike and getting scraped elbow in CTE. We went deeper into the facility, but we confront their little leader and had to go full on rail canyon mode in this sewer grinding from rail to rail. And we had to like spray their backs. It was called like spray tag. The shame of taking an L in spray tag completely dissolves and destroys their crew. But at that moment, Yo-Yo gets kidnapped and all hell breaks loose. Me and my friends designed some custom graffiti, which is a neat ass feature. And yeah, look at the leader. The leader of Poison Jam looks kind of cool. I like her design. I bet you can unlock her like if you do it in like the post game or something. As they fall, two new crews emerge. We had to run to the Skyscraper District, which was a cool techno city mixed with Egyptian design. It gave me like casino vibes. Not that type of casino though, this type of casino. I fell down to the city streets though at least like 40 times. This level just wanted you to jump giant pitfalls and land gently. And the physics up these ramps and satellites sometimes felt weird. There were a lot of things standing in your way, like once again the camera, and figuring out how to get to certain skyscrapers was a challenge. Like, damn, I felt like Spider-Man on skates this time. It's basically the cutthroat business district, and it's highlighted by its brutal level design and traditional art direction. This and 99th Street both had similar centerpieces, but this place was much more rigid in every way. Hokage Street was another neat level, basically a super populated city. The police are overly saturated in this lower income neighborhood, what a shocker. They're flying in on helicopters and shit. This fucking Hayashi has a terror drone that looks straight out of Terminator. I like this level though, it was pretty inoffensive. The winding staircases were fun to grind up and get combos for the challenges to get more graffiti souls. This place kind of just felt redundant and filler. Kibagoka Hill followed this, where the overpopulation hit the next level and it's just full on favela from Modern Warfare 2. This time you're taking out the Rikaku choppers and unlocking Boogie after 52 attempts. This level was pretty jagged with roofs as the floor yet again, but this level just had a kind of weird design and felt needlessly annoying to get from point A to point B. I felt like the cupcake phase in this game was kind of ending with me. I was starting to get more impatient. Everything in the game required tight controls and you kind of just were loose and low gravity. Everything was great until it wasn't, basically. Like, exploring the levels was just still unbeatable, and even though I was getting a little frustrated with the controls and those things, it didn't really get in the way of the aesthetic and the soundtrack. A certain challenge would arise and you'd see through a few cracks of the game though. Like damn, sometimes it felt like jumping and where you'd land had a mind of its own. Or at least a mind tied to half-ass auto-aiming you to rails you were not trying to land on. And sometimes just hitboxes and physics would just come crashing down. We were tipped off to Yo-Yo's location, and right as we thought we saved him, he literally just captures us. Fucked up. And is working for the enemy. Luckily, instead of like something stressful or painful when we get captured, it's just a good old-fashioned game of death ball. Yeah, new sport, Jet Set Radio Sport. With a new atmosphere, more bold colors, new song, it brought variety and a shock of life to the game. It refreshed it for sure. The goal was making it a lap with the ball, and it was a rush. You were supposed to like pass it back and forth with this little teammate and avoid the 3 opponents we were against. I could see a game like this succeeding in the online market with friends, but most of the time it was just me running freely way ahead of everyone because I was just grinding my ass off and speed boosting. But once you had the ball, you couldn't speed boost, so that was kind of a pain. Right when we lock into the championship, Rikaku didn't want to see us get the dub. He bet moneyline on Immortals and he brought in the heat. Before we could take out Hayashi's new and modified jailbroken drone, he had to call us guinea pigs! That's a good, never heard anybody call it people guinea pigs. The bosses weren't all that intuitive or special really. This thing looks cool even though I beat it by grinding and spraying it how I beat everything else that stood in my way. It stood out and was memorable because it looked kind of crazy. Next, we had to retread our old pastures and corral the rioting noise tanks. Seems like a peaceful protest to me though, even being considerate to not take up sidewalk space by staying on the grind rail. Yo-Yo's trader ass was still on the loose. We chased Yo-Yo down to Sky Dinosaur Square, a sweet ass dino themed amusement park in the heart of the city. Before we could get to Yo-Yo though, the Poison Jam leader comes out of nowhere and reveals it's just a noise tank, a Yo-Yo deep fake, and we had to play tag again and spray 3 bots back, which is starting to get old, but luckily this level was really sweet, jumping from rooftop to roller coaster loop-de-loops. It felt kind of similar to the type of tag level in the sewers earlier though, rails everywhere. I cannot emphasize enough how easy speedrunners and people who are actually good at this game make this game look though. It appears easy and more pickup and playable, but to really enjoy this one you need to have a little patience with everything. I mean shit, this game came out the same year as Mario Sunshine, so nobody had it all figured out yet. The story was really a high point though, so many twists and turns. Each update turned out noise tanks were created by Rokaku with another shitty strategy. They even got this My Hero Academia looking ass group to take us down called the Golden Rhinos, basically the elite Rokaku police. This guy Clutch comes in and takes 40 of our graffiti souls. Basically the only completion necessary to finish the story when it comes to those. But now we gotta run him down as he knows something about Yo-Yo. Got to play a few more games of tag with our rollerblading rivals, and at this point I was ready for the high points and the ending. There's a lot of filler here that just didn't seem necessary, but more time in these thoughtfully designed areas weren't a problem. I really love 99th Street. I wish I could just get an Airbnb here. Clutch was acting like a roaming legendary in Pokemon Silver, moving from location to location, but we track him down, unlock him, and he tells us Yo-Yo is at the fortified residential zone, which we got to get to through the sewers. We had to go Jason Bourne on skates this time and defuse the bomb by finding all these switches and turning them off. We had 30 minutes. Right after you do it with these blue or green switches, you get to do it again in a more difficult area above with red switches. They tried to blow this whole thing up. These are terrorists. They brought Harriers in and they still couldn't beat a dumbass on skates with a spray can. We grind on gold arms over here and fuck them up. And just bum rush flamethrower geek over here. What a journey this game has been. I feel like it has asked a lot from us, but it was all worth it when I challenged this guy named Soda to a race and he joined our group. So many little quests and pieces. Each thing on their own merit doesn't sound amazing, but when you piece it all together it makes such a fleshed out experience. We talked to this mysterious robot beat looking thing and he had such a way with words. We drop off this weird looking steam locomotive and destroy it. They're throwing all these stops at me and you can tell the game's about to wrap up. All these ideas. I honestly had no idea what type of Naruto ass infinite Tsukuyomi ending we were in for. So Mr. Rokaku basically appropriates our culture and shows up in Shibuya Terminal trying to be a DJ spinning. I wish we got to see more of Mr. Rokaku here. He is a weird dude. He even made a cameo in a Yakuza game. As he loomed in the distance, we had to play some more damn tag. But yeah, the music here was sick. Trying to use a traditional opera sample just right with the themes and the color change in Shibuya Terminal. It just gave it a whole new kind of empty atmosphere. And before we took him on, the final boss, DJ K comes back and announces proudly we're in the new Jet Set Radio called Jet Set Radio Future, baby.
Think I'ma call it? Yeah, Jet Set Radio Future!
Yeah, there it is! There it is! Oh, that's why they call it that.
I like the wisdom he spit. I always like a good little lesson to teach me. We got sucked into the Tower of Despair though before we could really ponder. And now it looks like a full-on Matrix level. Fairly Odd Parents episode in cyberspace energy. This final sequence was so cool, nothing like I expected. This glitchy Rokaku fully transforms into an anime villain. They steadily raised the stakes and it went from knocking down a few cops to this. We had to do this CSGO surf type thing to end the game, flawless a couple times to get all the way up and spray the hell out of this guy, Okami, which translates from Japanese to nightmare, apparently. I don't know. Every time you land, you have to avoid these black Ultraman looking robots. They basically made the most difficult sequences and made you use everything you learned, well besides the hand plant stuff, and just go off. And as Rokaku is fully drained and his tower destroyed, Professor K has a great message to close out this unforgettable experience. The indomitable human spirit and the freedom of expression will beat money and ruling with an iron fist. Fuck a tyrant. This game is a certified Boompa classic in every way. Stamp it. From the main menu It's a game that gets your attention, demands your attention, especially on the OG Xbox with the goated cel-shaded visuals. Nobody was doing it like this. Not only that, they seem to capture so many different aesthetics and color palettes. Definitely felt like a deep exploration into all types of cities. The soundtrack is unforgettable as well, with samples and unique sounds curated by Hideki Naganuma. Everybody give this man his flowers right motherfucking now, filling the towns with even more life just by adding a beat. Surprisingly, after all that, there's still so much more after completing the game. You can unlock a bunch of cool characters, time trials, even more graffiti spots to get. They repopulate. It is definitely one you will want to revisit, even if it's just doing tricks around Shibuya Terminal or getting some graffiti souls. The presentation is just so ahead of its time, and although the game does leave some to be desired in combat and more tight areas, there was just so much variety, and running around town on skates being a degenerate was just a blast. But yeah, Sega and Smilebit really went off on this, and it's a shame and a scam this game series doesn't have more entries. I wish I could explain all the little nuances and things that made it feel special, but I recommend you experience it yourself. They just need to throw this game on Game Pass or something. Even if some of the sequences were janky or finicky, this was a journey, and I thank you for coming on it with me. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. We will definitely be back soon with some more classics. If you actually made it to the end, I appreciate you. And oddly enough, right after I beat this game, Sega announced Jet Set Radio as their pin of the month or some shit. So that's about as much news as we'll probably get at this point. I'll see you guys next time.